Hello, I'm George Malin, contributing editor of Vanilla Plus. I've come to the AfricaCom conference and exhibition in Cape Town, South Africa. It is clear that wireless technologies will bring broadband data services to previously unserved populations. LTE will be at the heart of that, and pre-deployment testing must be planned along with systems and methodologies to assure the real-world services work properly. I'm now going to talk to Paul Gowans, Regional Marketing Manager at JDSU, to find out how carriers should prepare best for LTE.
Paul, what are the challenges that operators face in their pre-deployment LTE trials?
Well, George, it's hard to underestimate the value of a well-planned, well-executed trial. It's all about mobile data, so they need to think about, the performance that they're trying to look at. Key is timescales. They're under a lot of deep pressures to deliver time to market. Complexity is very important. There's a lot of new elements in LTE, radio access network at the core, so they've got to think about those. And then finally, and importantly, it's interoperability. There's a lot of focus on interoperability with LTE trials. So that's thinking about interoperability with systems that are in place today, like 3G environments, but also all the new elements that are going in place. How are they going to work together between the radio access network and the core?
Paul, you mentioned time to deployment. What are the methods that operators can adopt to ensure that they meet their business goals?
So we talked about planning, right? So plan, and getting that methodology right beforehand is really important. You need to know what you're going to measure, be clear on that. Quality of service, the efficiency of the radio access network, latency, throughput, all those performance areas, right? And it's all about mobile data. So, what performance levels you're going to expect in real life, you need to try and replicate those. If you plan well, get the methodology in place, understand the complexity beforehand, you'll have a successful trial.
And how can JDSU help operators do that?
Well, we need to take the guesswork out of any LTE trials. It's too important to kind of gamble on. JDSU got an award recently for not only its products, network protocol tests and drive test solutions, but importantly for the methodology associated with trials. So how do you go about a trial? How do you plan it? We've worked closely with industry bodies such as LSTI and MSF in terms of kind of defining trial methodology, interoperability, and we really bring a lot of that experience and expertise and capability in defining a lot of the trial methodology to successful trials. So that helps give a sound footing for a lot of service providers as they're deploying their LTE services.
How can the errors made in 3G deployment be avoided in the 4G world?
As we move from trials to real deployment, there's three things I think we have to think about that we learnt from 3G. One is around KPIs. We're no longer thinking hundreds of KPIs to run a business. We're thinking maybe 20 or 30, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is end-to-end service performance. There's a whole new RAN in place. There's a whole new evolved packet core. So seeing the service view end-to-end is really, really important. And thirdly, let's not think about exactly where to monitor, but think more importantly about what to monitor. So that's things like, let's 100% look at service impacting issues. When to monitor. So I probably want to look at control plane all the time, but I can be flexible on the data plane, given the quantities of data. And then what am I going to do with that data? If you don't produce an end-to-end correlated view, you just end up with noise. So knowing how you're going to pull that together in an end-to-end view is fundamental to how you're going to assure the end-to-end service.
Finally, we're here in Africa, so how do you see the prospects for LTE in emerging markets?
The prospects are very favourable. LTE is being planned by a lot of the service providers in this region and broadly in the emerging environment. And I think what LTE does is it brings the performance levels of the internet, with the mobile to a much wider group of people. Perhaps where it was more difficult to get DSL or cable to, LTE now brings that internet to them with the performance levels, and I think will meet a lot of the consumers' expectations for LTE.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's been a pleasure talking
Thank
to
you.
you.
So what we're showing here is our drive test solution, so radio access analysis. So we have the software on the laptop, we have the receiver for the RF analysis, and then of course we also have in a normal case a UE connected. What we're showing the visitors here is a drive we did in a live LTE network with a phone connected and with the receiver, doing the analysis and also performing some active tests on the network, FTP downloads, video streaming, etc. So in the next stage, next to the radio access, of course, we have the link monitoring within the let's say core network. So again, LTE traces we did based on 10 gig. So we have a 1 gig probe, that's this one, but we also have a 10 gig probe because LTE core is moving to 10 gig. And we did some tracing, end-to-end tracing, in this case at the MSF event. So we had multiple vendors interconnecting to each other, and we did let's say the end-to-end tracing and the validation of the test cases for this.